Hello and welcome to another episode of the ToroFoot Podcast. I am, as always, Milton, and today is a little bit different. All right, it's just gonna be me today. I am currently in France, northern France, and this is gonna be quite a short podcast. We're just gonna be talking about a bunch of different things, the numerous and impactful uh, changes in the football landscape recently. It's quite the talk. We're not going to get too much into Mourinho, Pochettino, or things like that. We will have a quick fire session, just 1 minute per theme for about 10 minutes. We're going to do 10 themes of that. We have picked those not quite randomly, but we've tried to pilfer from here and there and get into the discussion. We will discuss quite a few things. We won't get into VAR today, VAR. I have quite a few thoughts on that, but I feel like I haven't done enough research personally. I haven't done enough research on various leagues and how they use it, because it's not just the Italian or the English or the Spanish. The various leagues and how they use it, because they don't all use it the same way in the same manner. The British league seems to be one of the worst proponents and users of VAR currently. And so, yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about a few things. We're going to talk about some Brazilian football, some English, some French. I am in France after all. Tiny bit of Spanish. A tiny bit of Spanish. I have. It's been quite a few months now that Ernesto Valverde. Let's start with that. Ernesto Valverde has been ridiculed by the Barcelona faithful, and I had first defended him. And I was like, give him a chance. Give him a chance. I like to see when it's a coach coaching such a big team like Unai Emery at PSG, and with big characters, and to a lesser extent Unai Emery at Arsenal, and a coach that doesn't necessarily have the track record or the ego of a Jose Mourinho. It's gonna be difficult. It's going to be difficult. I won't get too much into Valverde because that is apparently one of our themes, but it's going to be difficult. And I said, all right, let's give him a chance to maybe prove that he can succeed and all these things. And well, yeah, after at a certain point, I think enough is enough. But the question is, who do you replace him with? That is always one of the questions when you say, oh, I want to get rid of this player, I want to get rid of this manager, I want to get rid of this technical director. Look at Manchester United. Manchester United. Manchester United. People keep on saying they need a technical director. They need a technical director. They need a technical director. I agree, personally. But you don't just go and get a technical director for getting one's sake. It's like the same way you don't fire a coach with absolutely no idea who you're going to replace him with or her with. You don't. I personally don't think you do that. That's just foolish to me. So people who want Ole out. Okay, there seems to be. Okay, so Allegri and Pochettino are currently available. There are a few coaches that are currently available. You have Javi Gracia, you have Luciano Spalletti, Marcelino. Ralph Rangnick isn't necessarily available. I like him a lot. I don't know what I think of him as a manager, as a coach. As he's quite successful, as he's a pretty good coach, but I like him where he is in charge of Red Bull work and putting things in. It's fantastic. There's Laurent Blanc, who I think Laurent Blanc has been out of the game for far too long, I think. For far too long. As you can see, guys, this is a very unstructured podcast today. It's very unstructured. It's been too long. It's been too long. So I just got back to it and said, let's do a podcast today. So it's a very unstructured podcast. But Blanc has been what? 3 years? 3 years out of the game? I'm just curious as to what exactly is going on. It's been a little over 3 years now. Almost 3.5 years. Almost 3.5 years. He's only 54. He's mid-50s. Only 54, I believe. He can get back into it. I'd like to see him in as a coach. Like Mourinho, say what you will about him. It's more entertaining when he's around, isn't it? It is more entertaining when Jose Mourinho is around, and apparently, uh, is it Jody, the Chelsea coach, the Chelsea coach, assistant coach for Frank Lampard, Jody Morris. Just had to look that up, and I had just read about him today, so I don't know what that's about. I completely forgot. Jody Morris took a little swipe at Jose for comments Jose made a while back, and Jody responded a little while ago as well. I'm not. I'm not bothered by either one. Jose didn't say he was a pundit. He's supposed to say these things. Jody personally, I had a friend I saw him tweet on Twitter about, and he's a Chelsea fan, saying, "Well, it's Phil." Like, there you go, Phil, saying that Jody Morris needs to watch his mouth. He's a very big. He's a Mourinho fan, and I'm like, okay, it's fair. I went and looked it up because I'm not much on social media, so I looked it up. Like, what happened here? All right, so he I guess he mocked Mourinho, if you want to call it, or we call it trolling now. It wasn't even that much. It's unprofessional for certain, but I believe that his players weren't the least bit surprised. I believe that Jody Morris's players and Frank Lampard's players weren't the least bit surprised. Someone who's willing to do that obviously shows his personality on the training pitch, and it's part of what makes him a coach, whether he's a good one or a bad one. Part of Jose Mourinho's success is that abrasive, combative nature, that anger, that fire, that passion, that rage. That is part of what makes him such a good coach. And with Jody Morris, this almost childish, no, not almost, these childish antics, this desire to respond, this confidence he has right now, it's part of what makes him a good coach, or a coach, I should say. I will admit, I was unconvinced, I'd say. I was unconvinced when Lampard took him to Derby and then took him and brought him back to Chelsea, took him to Chelsea. I was unconvinced. But hey, they're doing well. They're doing well. It's a little harder to judge an assistant manager, an assistant coach than a head coach, a lead coach. But good for him. He's relatively young in terms of coaching experience and coaching, so this could just be a blip. So I don't think anything needs to be made out of it. I believe Chelsea did well to reprimand him or warn him, but there's nothing more to that. I would say though, Jose Mourinho is not necessarily the type of manager to provoke. He might be an old lion, but he is still a lion with claws and teeth. He is still that guy. He is still that guy. This is coming from someone who's Angolan, who has a particular relationship through my Angolanness with the Portuguese and Portuguese managers in particular. So watched him, followed him for a very, very long time. Have been a big fan, have been less of a fan, but I don't think you can disrespect or not acknowledge his success. And anyone talking about him buying players, I don't like to bring up Pep Guardiola, but the people who tend to talk about Mourinho will say, well, Pep Guardiola did this. Don't talk to me about Pep in terms of money and put him in a favorable light compared to Mourinho. You can't. I just don't think you can. And Pep Guardiola is one of the best managers ever. You know what? So is Jose Mourinho. With Porto, everyone brings it back up, but also with Chelsea. That first season coming in and winning right away and then winning again. And with Inter Milan, he had success, not just in Serie A, but genuinely in the Champions League. And the way he had success in the Champions League, and the atmosphere he created, the ambiance. And speaking of atmosphere and Mourinho, you can't ignore Real Madrid. You can't ignore Real Madrid, where the wheels truly began to fall off. The wheels truly began to fall off of his legacy. But even then, he was able to take a notch off of Pep Guardiola and maybe the greatest club team we've ever seen. Yes. That includes the Invincibles of Arsenal. And yes, I put emphasis on the club team. Put emphasis on club team, though some might say it's easier to succeed or create a great team, club team, than it is with national team, which is something I find very interesting. I've heard both sides of it. I was talking to a coach, and I believe it was about 2 years ago when I was still coaching in France. He said, I'm not gonna say his name, but he was an older coach, a youth coach. He was a U13 coach, yes, a U13 coach, and I worked closely with him most every day. And we were just discussing. It was the World Cup. It was become right before the World Cup. World Cup was coming up in France, so they were quite excited. And he was saying that a shoot. Basically, he was defending either the club coach or the national coach, saying that the club coach has to make do with what he has in front of him. You see, he has to make do with what he has in front of him, whereas the national team coach can call from a great pool of players. And I heard someone else say the exact same thing, but in the reverse, where a national team manager actually only has a certain amount of players, and obviously depends on the national team, whereas a club team manager can go and get players, and that again depends on the size of the club team. And it's always interesting. Is to me things. I always say soccer or football is a reflection of society. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything. It's a reflection of society. And so when I say in soccer that things aren't black and white, it's the exact same thing in society. Things aren't black and white. It's never perfect for a manager. For instance, I thought, are we going to, okay, I'm not going to bring that up yet because we're going into the 10-minute speed session. Are we coming up with a name for that? 10-minute speed session. So it's an interesting name. Okay. So how this is going to work? I have 1 minute and 1 minute only to discuss a topic, and I gotta say I'm not confident. I'm not confident about saying what I need to say in 1 minute. So, but I guess that's the point of it, okay? I guess that is the point of it. So, we are getting ready, all right? And here we go. Sorry. That's a lie. I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared at all. First up is Unai Emery. So Unai Emery in Arsenal. I admit when he first arrived, I was disenchanted. I was like, why him? Like most people, so there's not a big surprise there. I was disenchanted. I was like, I don't want him. Thierry Henry or Mikel Arteta. I'm not saying they deserved it or would be better. They would just be much more interesting, much more fun to watch. And then I thought about it. I gave myself time to say, all right, think about it. And I said, all right, this isn't so bad. 3-4 years, he can be a transitional manager to just get them back into finishing in the top 4 on the regular, maybe top 5, things like that, and then build up from there. I was like, yeah, and then he's going to want to prove something after being put in a difficult situation and putting himself partially in a difficult situation with PSG and Neymar and all these things. So he's going to want to prove it. And now it's looking like he might be out of his depth. I don't think he's a bad manager. I think he's making bad decisions. I think he's not handling his things very, very well. And that's a minute. Okay, so next one up is West Ham. West Ham. All right, I believe was it last year? What I said, I don't know if it was this. Yeah, I believe it was last year. I said Manuel Pellegrini and this West Ham team with the investment, and it appears to be intelligent investment, can be a very, very fascinating, enjoyable team. They took a while last season, and this season I was like, all right, they might get back into it because I think Pellegrini at times gets the short end of the stick, is underappreciated. And now it seems like he as well is struggling to show his best. He's struggling to show his best. Just like coaches, just like players, I should say, age can get to coaches. Age can get to coaches. He's 66. He's been managing for years now, decades now. And I don't want to see he doesn't have it anymore. But I felt like it was a really great merger of these two teams, and he could have been, he's a bit up there in age, but 3 to 5 years as well, not necessarily transitional, but to start the building blocks because they have a great team in front of them. And that's a minute. Goodness, this is harder than I thought. All right, Gabriel Barbosa of Flamengo. Got to talk about it. Copa Libertadores. Scoring 2 goals after losing trailing 1-0, scoring 2 goals in the final minutes and getting sent off. Gabigol. I I want to temper things. I don't want to disrespect anyone, but I want to temper things and hope we don't get too hyped over Gabigol. He's done this before. He's been exciting. I remember when I was in Brazil and I asked someone, so Gabriel Jesus and Gabigol, how are you guys feeling? They were higher on, somewhere higher on Gabriel Jesus, somewhere higher on Gabigol, and I felt like Gabriel Jesus was true talent. They really saw the talent, whereas Gabigol they saw the results and the performances. But Gabriel Jesus had his head on his shoulders. He was calm. He was focused, and all of these things. Well, Gabigol really he has a little bit of, I won't say the party nature, but a lack of discipline. He lacks discipline. And he's still loaned out by Inter Milan. I don't see him being a huge success in Europe. I hope to be proven wrong. And next one, goodness. Speaking of successes in Europe, Memphis Depay of Olympique Lyon, where I lived for about 5, 6 years. Yes, I like him. He started off very well for Manchester United, but this is something I'd love to see, is someone struggling and then getting another chance and blossoming, being more focused and disciplined, and having the right environment around. We seem to forget sometimes that environment is important. It's not just you failed. It could be that the club failed you, or in most cases, it is an amalgam, a combination of both or various factors. And Memphis Depay, I don't think he should leave too early. I don't know how long he's been at Olympique Lyon now. I think he needs to stay at least maybe one more year. One more year to really confirm. Look at Alexandre Lacazette. Alexandre Lacazette, so it's been 2 years, right? He arrived in 2017 fantastically. Alexandre Lacazette, to be fair, he was French, but he stayed and confirmed his ability, grew his confidence, and perfected his game. I'm a big fan. And then he left and is doing very well. Memphis Depay should do the same. Sorry, that was about 2 seconds more than a minute. Exequiel Palacios of River Plate. People have been talking about this young man for a while now. I'm a big fan. From what I hear, he's special on Football Manager, Football Manager as well. But in the real world, no disrespect to Football Manager, okay, we will talk about it. But in the real world, he's not sure. He's about 5'9", almost 5'10". He's 21, young, but he's powerful and impactful. He can hit it from range. He attacks. He defends. He's intelligent. He's got that traditional Argentine passion. He's a fighter. He's a dog, and he has quite a few admirers in Europe. Quite a few admirers in Europe. He's already played for Argentina. I think he can be a really, truly, truly special talent, and I feel like it's been a while since we've had a dynamo Argentinian midfielder. You know, we associate Argentina with attackers and quite a few rugged defenders. It's good to see him, and that is next. Oh my, that's quicker than I would have liked. Let's go back to Lyon with Moussa Dembélé. When he was at Celtic, at first I said, that's a brilliant signing by Celtic, and I said, Dembélé, that's quite. I gotta say, I was very happy that he made that decision. It was a step, not just very high up from Fulham to Celtic, but it was a step in another direction, almost lateral. Fulham was struggling, so not quite lateral. I'd say a step higher, but not to another European powerhouse, especially since he hadn't completely proven himself in Fulham, though he did have a good career there. And then he went to a decent beginning, I should say, Celtic, and did very well there. And then he went to Lyon. That was a very good step, and I felt that Lyon made a brilliant decision in getting him. And Celtic did reasonably well, I'd say, in letting him out. And Dembélé did a great job in going there as well. And now he's doing well there. He's only 23. Good decisions made all the way around. Ansu Fati of Barcelona. Ansu Fati. Is he 17 now or is he still 16? 17. Young man, people are super excited about him. I have learned to be a little more tempered and reserved. I hope he succeeds. I was excited about Bojan Krkic years ago. And I do feel that if he struggled, it wasn't just him personally. Let's make that clear. If he struggled, I don't think it was just him. So Fati has more than enough talent for certain to succeed. He's quite he's confident. He's young physically. That's something we decided. You gotta look only at the technical ability. No, that's not true. You do gotta look at the physical ability as well. And he does have the physical ability to play older people at this age already, so it's important. But he's clever, he's intelligent, he's willing to attack, and as a more forward-thinking player, he's allowed to make more mistakes, which is huge. Whew, I'm tired. Sticking with Barcelona, Ernesto Valverde, as we mentioned earlier. I am going to try to get into contact with a particular Barcelona fan to discuss Ernesto Valverde, who is struggling to say the least. Struggling to say the least, although I do believe the board has hindered him by helping him as well, if you want to look at it that way, in the terms of the players they brought in, how many they brought in, the quality of these players. And Griezmann, Valverde is not making great decisions. I think he can't help but rely on Messi, like so many, like the players, like Barcelona managers before him, like Argentina managers before him, like Argentina players before him. But there seems to be almost a lack of identities at times. There seems to be a lack of a project. Is get the best players out there, reduce the amount of chances the other team creates, and then, I don't want to say hope for the best, but provide a certain structure for the rest of the team to do what they need to do, and that is not good enough, apparently. Two more, Marco Silva. Marco Silva, Everton. I thought when he went to Everton, it was a good, almost a coup for, not a coup, almost a coup for Everton, because he's highly regarded in Portugal. These Portuguese managers have a lot of support in their home country, and they're quite talented. The Portuguese formation, the Portuguese courses are well structured. What is going on with Marco Silva? What is going on? I said, you got to give him more time. Got to give him more time. There have been some injuries, but I don't think that Morgan Schneiderlin should be a player for a Premier League team. I don't think he should be a player for, or at least not at this level anyway. He can't be starting most games. He shouldn't be starting 20 out of 38 games. He shouldn't be. Richarlison, I'm a big fan of. Sigurdsson, I think, needs to have less playing time, less of an impact as well. Marco Silva has good ideas, but I believe the loss of Zoom, I heard him a lot, and that's more than a minute. I am so sorry. Next up, Flamengo. We talked about Gabigol. We can't just say it was all him. That 2-1, that is a very, very good Flamengo team with Everton Ribeiro, who, if you remember from his time, particularly at Cruzeiro, he was spectacular. Filipe Luis, most notably with Atletico Madrid. Hey, still a powerful player, great player. At his age, is he 34 now? 34. That was a lucky guess. He's 34 now. He has a little less tread on his legs than maybe Daniel Alves. At 36 is Sao Paulo. And then, of course, Jorge Jesus, another Portuguese manager who I think is quite gifted and talented and successful, gets the job done. And say what you will, because they do mock him at times for what is a perceived inability to speak the Portuguese language very well. He has been managing for years, since 1990. He really made it out the dirt from beginning to top. Former Benfica, Sporting, Braga. He's done it. He's very successful. I would have loved to have seen him in Europe, and particularly in France, in Spain eventually. But so you got to give credit to where credit is due with the entire Flamengo team. Whew, that was the rapid fire session, 10 minutes. I can't stay much longer. I gotta go. But I'm gonna still try to continue to talk a little bit just to wrap things up in the correct manner. Okay? All of these are subjects that we need to reassess and discuss once again. Flamengo also winners of the Serie A in Brazil. They have 4 games left. They are ahead by 13 points. So even if second place were to win all the games, Flamengo were to win, and they won Copa Libertadores, they're going to the Club World Cup. It is a good start for Jorge Jesus, I gotta say. And so yes, the Premier League is back on with the other leagues. Liverpool look to be runaway winners right now. I'd stay calm. I'd stay calm. I feel like nothing is guaranteed. The La Liga is fun. La Liga is fun. It's unimpressive. The top teams are unimpressive, to say the least, right now. But it's so enjoyable to have Levante doing a little better, Granada, up there. It's pretty close as well. Yeah, Sevilla, who's always enjoyable, Atletico Bilbao, and just their philosophy and their ability to succeed with that philosophy is fascinating. Always been a big fan of Iker Muniain, for instance. Big fan of his. Iñaki Williams as well. Real Sociedad is another one that's doing very, very well. Espanyol is towards the bottom, and it would hurt me if they were to go down. The other Barcelona team, that would hurt me. Um, as we move on to Serie A in Italy, just a few broad thoughts very quickly. We don't have much time to get into depth. Can we talk about Roma and Paulo Fonseca? Paulo Fonseca. Yes, another Portuguese manager. We've been waiting for a while. This person, I've been waiting for him to, I don't want to say blow up, but come out. I like him not as much as I like Graham Potter. I do love me some Graham Potter, but I do like Paulo Fonseca. Only 46 years old. He really bit his time. He made his bones working in Portugal and in Ukraine with Shakhtar Donetsk, and now with Roma. And to be fair, he got a decent chance with Porto as well in Portugal, and then had to go on back, you'd say. But he's struggling. He's not struggling, I should say. He hasn't had the easiest time with Roma in terms of injuries. It's been a ridiculous amount of injuries, and yet they are in fourth place. They are in fourth place. Cagliari has a game in hand, only 1 point behind, so they can go ahead of them fairly enough. But they're in the top five. Let's say they're in the top five, fourth place right now, with a ridiculous amount of injuries. They've got talent, they've got ability. He's bringing in young players. He's willing to play players. That Zaniolo is just, it wasn't him who brought Zaniolo in or to the team or to the club at least. But he's got something special in Nicolo Zaniolo, who is disturbingly good. You keep on waiting for him to start to struggle a little bit, weaken a little bit, but he keeps on going. And the only issue is Roma has been a selling team for the past several years even. And you're wondering who's going to go first. Is it going to be Cengiz Ünder or Nicolo Zaniolo? And I've been reluctant personally to get onto the Cengiz Ünder, I don't want to say bandwagon, but on the hype train, if you will. And he continually impresses me. He's only 22 as well, so there is a little bit of lack of consistency at times. But at times, he's also been the main man. He's been the star. He's been the go-getter for the Roma team over the past year and a half. And you have Justin Kluivert, who I think was a good buy as well, because I don't think he's going to reach his peak at Roma. But with his name, with his ability, with the fact that he is Dutch, has gone through the Dutch youth ranks, has played for the Netherlands, has played for Ajax, and has excited with them, I think they will be able to get a pretty good fee for him. A pretty good fee for him later on. So I think that was very intelligent on their part, and especially for the price. So I just had to mention Roma. I had to mention Roma. Big fan of how they're doing things. Lazio. It's just great that they're providing, I wouldn't say competition, but it's. I grew up where Fiorentina and Roma and Lazio, Milan and Inter and Juventus, and anyone else in particular, Udinese as well, and Palermo. Palermo, a lot of fun. When Cavani went through there, and Dybala went through there, and Pastore, they were towards the top and challenging and made it very, very exciting. And so this Juventus dominance has been not boring, but disheartening. And seeing these teams get up there, and Cagliari getting up there, and Atalanta, because they made the Champions League. It's been fantastic. Especially now that Napoli has dropped the ball and has been struggling. I admit I didn't love the Carlo Ancelotti signing. I'm a big fan of Ancelotti. I'm a big fan of Ancelotti. Even though some would say he struggles in leagues. Some would say he's a cup manager. I'm a big fan of his, but I didn't feel that it was the right combination. I feel like a Juventus would have been a team already fully established with winners that's not trying to get over the hump. Napoli, I felt like that was the wrong way to go after the Maurizio Sarri, though I believe Napoli in itself is at the end of a cycle. Players, managers, maybe even executives, I think they're at the end of a cycle, and it's not particularly surprising that they are struggling now. Carlo Ancelotti. My next question is, how much longer will he be coaching? Uh, 60? Oh, he still got quite a few years. If he wants to, he still has quite a few years. I think he needs to go to. Huh, he already had PSG and Bayern Munich. Well, you know what? That'll be for next time. Okay, that'll be for next time. For next time, we do have a few things to discuss. We'll see if we're able to get some guests on. Otherwise, we'll be we'll be discussing quite a few of the things. We might finally talk about Jose Mourinho at Tottenham, Pochettino leaving, and the disrespect both have been shown, as if we've forgotten how good either has been. And although they have struggled, and we should acknowledge when someone struggles if we're going to acknowledge when someone does well. I think you also can't forget the ridiculous success. And Pochettino, for me, has been maybe the most successful manager in the Premier League during his time with Tottenham, from the beginning to the end. Oh, not to the end. All in all, he might have done the best work. He might have done the best work for what he had for that span of years, and that means also you can't talk about coaches that were only there for a year or two or three even. He was there much longer. But we will get to that. I hope you enjoyed this mini episode of the ToroFoot Podcast. We did what we could with the time and the circumstances we had. We will see if we're able to record another one while here in France. Maybe talk to a few people. Otherwise, we'll be back with you back in the U.S., bringing Philip back on board. Thank you very much, and hope you have a good one.